Welcome to this explainer on the Zeigarnik Effect, or why your brain absolutely refuses to let go of someone who left you. Let me ask you something right out of the gate. Have you ever totally convinced yourself that you are finally, truly 100% over an ex? You did the work, you moved on, you're feeling great, you literally tell yourself, yep, I am so over them. But then, out of nowhere, you just get completely ambushed.
A song plays. Just some random track on the radio, maybe a playlist you didn't even put together. And boom, just like that, the memories are instantly right there.
You pass a familiar street, or maybe you see someone from behind who just walks exactly like them, and suddenly all of it, all those memories come rushing back, stacking up on top of each other at lightning speed, crashing over you like absolutely nothing ever changed.
Why? Really pause and think about that for a second. Why does your brain so easily let go of thousands of totally ordinary days? Like, what did you eat for lunch last Tuesday? What did you wear 3 weeks ago? Gone. But it completely and stubbornly refuses to forget this one person who walked away. Is it true love? Is it deep regret? Or is there something much, much deeper, like a biological quirk happening inside your mind? Well, nearly 100 years ago, a psychologist discovered a fascinating reason why unfinished relationships stay trapped in our minds. And I promise you, once you see the structure behind it, you are never going to look at heartbreak the exact same way again.
Okay, think about how our brains process a story. Picture this. You're watching your absolute favorite TV series. You are so invested, and just as the massive mystery is finally about to be solved, the screen just cuts to black. To be continued. It is so incredibly annoying, right? You literally feel that tension in your chest. Now compare that super frustrating cliffhanger with a beautifully resolved movie that wraps up every single question, every conflict, every character arc before the credits even roll. Happily ever after. Fast forward a week later. Which one of those do you remember more vividly? Unquestionably, it's the unfinished one. See, your brain absolutely hates unfinished business. It craves closure.
Section 1. The 1920s Cafe Mystery. To understand this quirk, we're time-traveling back to a bustling 1920s Viennese cafe. This is where a brilliant psychologist named Bluma Zeigarnik is sitting, having a coffee, and quietly observing the waiters as they navigate this really busy room.
She notices something pretty wild. These cafe waiters were performing these incredible feats of memory. They could remember every single unpaid order with stunning accuracy. Who had the strudel, who wanted black coffee, who ordered the schnitzel. But the exact moment a customer paid their bill, poof, gone. The waiter's memory of the details completely vanished. It was wiped totally clean. Well, Zeigarnik was intensely curious about this, so she conducted a series of experiments. And what she found was this universal human truth.
And this observation brilliantly illustrates what became known as the Zeigarnik Effect. It's the psychological tendency to remember unfinished tasks or experiences far better than completed ones. Think about it like this. Your brain treats unfinished experiences exactly like open tabs on a computer browser. Even if you aren't actively looking at them, they just keep running quietly in the background, chewing up your precious RAM and draining your mental battery until they finally feel complete.
Which brings us to Section 2. Breakups as open tabs. So, how does this century-old science perfectly decode the pain of modern heartbreak? Well, let's bring this right back to your personal relationships. Because, as we all know, not every relationship ends with perfectly tied-up answers.
Sometimes someone just disappears. They stop replying, they completely ghost you, or maybe they hit you with that incredibly vague, "I just need some space." No real explanation, no heartfelt goodbye, no chance to sit down and logically understand what went wrong. To your brain, because of the Zeigarnik Effect, that relationship never truly finished. It's an agonizingly unfinished story, and unfinished stories are incredibly difficult, almost impossible, for the human mind to simply ignore.
Because every single unanswered question just becomes another energy-draining open tab in your mind. What did I do wrong? Were they ever actually honest with me? Did they still think about me? Could I have somehow changed the ending if I just did one thing differently? Your brain just keeps obsessively searching for answers because it biologically believes that closure is still out there, just waiting to be found. It is an exhausting loop to be stuck in.
Which leads us to a major paradigm shift in how we think about this. A lot of people who are hurting deeply think they are missing the person, but often they are actually just desperately missing the unanswered questions. Imagine reading a thrilling mystery novel. You're completely gripped, and you get to the very end only to find the final chapter has been literally ripped out of the binding. You'd keep thinking about that book for weeks
Not because it was the greatest piece of literature ever written, but because your mind desperately demands to know how the story ends. Relationships work the exact same way. When someone leaves without giving you emotional closure, your brain just takes over and keeps trying to write that missing chapter itself, sometimes for years.
Moving on to Section 3, the social media trap. Unfortunately, our modern digital landscape makes this biological quirk so much worse today than it was when Bluma Zeigarnik was sitting in that cafe in the 20s. 100 years ago, if someone left your life, they usually physically disappeared from it. Today, they're absolutely everywhere.
The trap is everywhere. A new profile picture pops up. You see a vacation story on Instagram, a mutual friend makes a birthday post, or you just see a random like from them on someone else's feed. Every single tiny, seemingly insignificant social media update acts like a trigger. It tells your brain, hey, look, this story isn't finished yet. Each little glimpse reopens that mental file. So instead of allowing your brain to naturally close the chapter and archive it, you're accidentally forcing yourself to endlessly reread the first few pages of an unfinished book.
And you know, the Zeigarnik Effect extends way beyond just massive breakups. It infects our everyday digital communication too. Think about the last time you were left on scene. How many times did you obsessively check your phone? Or worse, when you get that dreaded text, "We need to talk later." Can you focus on a single other thing at work? Probably not. Your brain instantly forces you to fill that silence with worst-case scenarios. Maybe they're angry. Maybe I'm getting fired. Maybe they're leaving me. The uncertainty becomes so much louder than reality itself, because uncertainty demands your attention, while completion brings peace.
But here's a really fascinating realization. You are not the only one who knows your brain works this way. Advertisers, YouTube creators, Netflix writers, they intentionally weaponize this exact psychology against you. Ever notice how a video starts with, "Wait until you hear the ending"? Or how a streaming show ends literally every single episode on a massive cliffhanger? They know your brain completely hates incomplete information. They know you require resolution, and that's exactly why you automatically click next episode at 2 a.m. Your curiosity isn't a weakness, it's literally just how your brain is wired. But here is where things become deeply personal. Sometimes the unfinished story isn't done to us. Sometimes we create our very own unfinished stories. Maybe you stayed silent. Maybe you never confessed your true feelings. Maybe you never apologized when you knew you really should have, because you were waiting for the perfect time. And years later, your brain still echoes with those two incredibly heavy words, "What if?" Those two words can easily become the heaviest emotional burden we carry, not because the outcome was guaranteed to be better, but simply because the outcome remains unknown. We torture ourselves by imagining perfect endings to stories that we never even allowed to unfold.
Section 4, creating your own closure. So the ultimate question is, how do you actually move on? How do you finally close all those open tabs? The answer isn't faking it. It isn't pretending you don't care. It's an empowering pivot. You must give your brain the sense of completion it is so desperately searching for, and you absolutely cannot wait forever for someone else to magically provide the explanation you're hoping for.
So let's slow down for a second and look at the concrete, actionable steps you can actually take. If you're waiting for an apology or a perfect explanation from someone who is gone, you are choosing to keep the story open. Instead, you have to manually provide your brain with completion. Step 1. Write a letter you will never send. Put every ounce of your anger, your confusion, and your love onto the paper. Empty the open tabs. Step 2. Delete the old messages you no longer need. Just stop revisiting the archives. Step 3. Stop checking their profile. Stop reopening the book to page 1. And step 4. Radically accept that some questions may just never have answers. Closure is not a gift someone else hands to you in a neatly wrapped box. Closure is a firm decision you make for yourself. The Zeigarnik Effect brilliantly explains why unfinished experiences stay so active and noisy in your mind, but it doesn't mean you're destined to be tortured by them forever. With time, with deliberate reflection, and by manufacturing your own self-made closure, your brain gradually learns that this specific story no longer needs another chapter. Not every book gets the beautiful happy ending we wanted, but every book can eventually be closed and placed firmly back on the shelf.
So, the next time someone from your past unexpectedly crosses your mind, months or even years after they left, don't automatically assume you're still in love with them. Challenge yourself. Ask yourself this one profound question. Am I missing the person, or am I just struggling with an unfinished story? That single question can completely reframe your heartbreak. Because sometimes the hardest thing in the world to let go of isn't the person who walked away, it's the ending you never got. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. See you next time.